In my humble opinion, every guitar player should learn at least one Jimi Hendrix solo, and if you're gonna do one, this is the one I would suggest. This is the solo from Hey Joe. Here you go. Hey, I'm Nate Savage, and welcome to this video lesson. If you have any requests for future guitar solo lessons, just leave them in the comments below. And if you haven't already, go to guitarfam.com and create your complimentary account to be able to access all of our free courses and the first module of all of our premium courses. Also, there on the site, guitarfam.com, you'll be able to get access to the resources like the jam track and the tab for this video, so make sure to do that. All right, this solo is a very good example of how you can use just one scale to cover a whole slew of chord changes. And really, I'm only thinking about one scale the entire time I'm playing this, and it's an E minor pentatonic. Typical, 6-string root note shape, except for one time. I'll show you when we get there. I think a little bit about E mixolydian for just a split second toward the end of the solo. I'll mention that when we get to it. But most of the time, I'm just thinking E minor pentatonic. But this is a really good exercise to think about targeting notes of the chords that are happening. Let's talk about the chord progression before we get into the actual solo. The chord progression is C, G, D, A, and then E. And when it starts off, I think it sounds and looks like I'm in the key of G major, okay? Which the relative minor is E minor, so it makes sense that I'm using an E minor pentatonic over the whole thing. But the closer we get to the end of that chord progression, C, G, D, A, that A major pops out of nowhere and it doesn't fit the chord. Doesn't fit the key of G major. What it does fit is the key of E mixolydian, or if you want to think about it that way. And of course, E major doesn't fit the key of G major either. But when you have a really bluesy feel or sound to a song, you can choose to kind of impose minor pentatonic or major pentatonic on over either one. So just keep that in mind as we go through this. All right, so just be thinking about those chords as we go through here. And I'll drop some target notes as we go through out here. But the cool thing is you don't really have to think about it like that. I just think about it like using the scale to make good sounds, and that's really it. So it starts off, the first measure is C for 2 beats, G for 2 beats, and the opening lick is. And the big advantage to this solo and the hardest part for me is the feel for the timing, and then all the bending and vibrato you have to put in on, bent notes. So it's really a kind of challenging workout for that. And my wife's much better at the feel of this type of song because Jimmy feels really behind the beat in a sappy kind of really good way. I found that a little more difficult. My wife is really good at that, so I'm sure she's going to put up a video of this and you'll see what I mean when you see her play that song. Anyway, go to the 15th fret of the B string, and I end up using my third finger because you have to bend that up a whole step and put some vibrato on it. I find I get a little more strength with that. Then over to 12 of the high E string, back to 15, 12 of the B string, and then 14 of the B string, bend it up, let it back down a full steps, pull off to 12, then 14 of the D string, and then back to 12 of the G string. And I find myself a lot on this solo pulling down on the strings for the type of vibrato to kind of match the sound that he was getting. So instead of going up like that, that's just something like a personal preference or what I found works for me. But let me play the rhythm of this first lick for you. And let me say this too. This song, the phrasing on the song is a bit unusual and very specific. So I would just listen to this a lot until you can kind of hear it in your head or sing along with it, and then try to start learning it. So the rhythm here is 1, 2, 3, 4. A little bit slower. All right, the next lick starts off on the same note, that 15th fret of the B string. Whole step bend again with some vibrato. And I find this to be one of the trickiest parts in the whole solo to play. While that's bent up, I come back here and grab the 12th fret of the high E string with my index finger and play both the B and the high E string. And then let it down, play both the B and high strings, E strings again, and then 12 of both of those strings. So, and there's, I'm not sure if that's exactly what he's playing here, but it does sound like he has some double stop stuff going on like this, but he may be like skank picking or, raking across all the strings. But that's what it sounds like he's doing to me. So, and then 14 of the G string, full step bend, 12 of the B string, and he's bending up to that 14th fret, up to that. That's the same note, right? So, then 14 of the G string, and then from here he goes to the 12th fret of the G string and hits it and slides up to 14, and then back down to 12, and with a little bend on it at the end. So, little quarter step bend there just for some style. So that second lick. So let me play that whole first line for you, those first two measures. Here you go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now you can think about the chords you're playing over and the target notes. If you do that, that first note you're playing is an E. It's the root note of the scale. It's also the third of the C chord. So he's just targeting either by ear or on purpose that note out of the scale because it's over a C chord. And he ends that phrase on a G note, that 12th fret of the G string, because I was playing over a G chord. So you can think about targeting notes like that, starting and ending on certain notes out of the scale to play over certain chords. This is a really great example of why it's great to use the parent minor pentatonic or the pentatonic major and minor to play over a whole series of chords, and it sounds good. This is a really good example of that. All right, let's go to the next little phrase. This one's over the E chord, and it just starts off on 14 of the D string with some vibrato, and then 12 of the G string, 14 of the D string, back to 12 of the G string, and then slide down. And this is custom made to kind of go over an E minor or an E major, just bluesy sound, right? So because I'm on the root note here of an E, and then this is the lower third, back to the root, back to the lower third of an E. So after you slide down there from the 12th fret, hit an open E string just for some style, and then slide back up on the A string to 14, 12, 14 of the D string, and then 12 of the G and B strings with some vibrato. And again, I'm pulling down on that and back to 14. All right, so that's measure 3. And for the next measure, it's pretty sparse. It's still over an E minor or an E major chord, but we're still kind of implying the E minor 7, I guess you'd say here. And all it is you're bending up the 15th fret of the B string a whole step, and that's just bending the lowered 7th up to the root note, this E, so we're bending up to an E. The first one is short, then you have a rest, then the next one is longer with some vibrato on it, so 2 bends. And this is where just listening to the solo over and over helped me a lot to be able to play this. Let me play measures 3 and 4 for you real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and now the first 4 measures for you. This is half of the solo. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this is where it goes back to the C, G, D, A progression. And the next 2 measures are the weirdest phrasing out of all of the solo to me. So I would really get to where you can sing this or hear it in your head first. Let me play it slowly for you. This next measure, number 5. All right, let's break that down and find out what's going on. 12th fret of the B and high E strings with your first finger. At the same time, leave your index finger where it is, put your pinky or third finger down on the 15th fret, and hit those 2 strings again. Take it back off to just the 12th fret. And then you're going to leave your index finger where it is again, come grab the 14th fret of the G string with your third finger and bend just the G string up a full step while hitting the G and B strings still on the 12th fret. And this is an 8th note here. So the first 3 notes here were at 16th notes, and this bend is an 8th note. So you have short, 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 long, like that. Okay, next beat, or you're already into the next beat, is just back to 12 on the high E and B, and then 15 of the B, and then 14 of the G string bent, and then 12 of the B. Then you have to roll your finger all the way over to the D string, 14th fret of the D string, flatten your 3rd finger out to play 14 of the G, and end this phrase on your index finger on the 12th fret of the G string with some vibrato. Okay, so slowly. Okay, and then the next phrase, measure 6, goes to more of a heavy swing feel. It's pretty subtle, but if you listen to it, you hear it a little bit more of a swing feel. That's the best way I know how to express that to you. But just listen for the rhythm, and you'll pick up on it much easier than really thinking about it intellectually. But you have a 16th rest on beat 1 of measure 6, and then you have 14th fret, and that's 14th fret is bent up, but the way I have it notated, each note is a 16th note. So the note not bent is a 16th note, and then the note you're bending to is a 16th note. So 1 E and then you have 12th fret of the B string, which is the same note you just bent up to, right? Then roll your finger over, 12th fret of the high E string, and then you have 15th fret of the high E string, bend it up a whole step, and let it back down. 12th fret of the high E string, all the way over to the 14th fret of the G string, bend that up a whole step, pinky comes and gets 15th fret of the B, index finger 12th fret of the high E, back to the 15th fret of the B with your pinky, and then 14th fret of the G with your 3rd finger, and 14th fret of the G with your 3rd finger with a full step bend. And I should say all these bends, bend with as many fingers as you can. It'll make your life a lot easier. If I try to bend with just my 3rd finger there, it's going to be a nightmare. So I bend with all 3 fingers, right? So that's that. Like, let me slow that down a little bit more for you. Here you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and and the last note that I played there was just the next note in measure 7 there. So it's the 12th fret of the G string, and that's a 3rd of an E minor chord. Since it's bluesy, we can choose to interpret that even though we're playing over an E major chord right there. So let me play the last 2 measures all together for you, because this is the hardest one as far as phrasing, at least to me, measures 5 and 6. Here you go. 1, 2, 3, and a 4, and a. Okay, and that bled into measure 7, which is just, again, 12th fret of the G string. And then you have 14th fret of the D string. And you slide down and out, and then hit the open low E string just as kind of a decoration. And then this is where I changed my thinking a tiny little bit, but not really, about what scale I'm using. And I would just memorize the frets here. It's kind of a quick note. It's really only one note where I shift into a kind of an E mixolydian scale that I'm thinking of, but not. It goes by too fast for me to think about it, but intellectually that's what I'm thinking about. And I just slide up to the 16th fret on the A string, and then 14, 16 on the D string, and I hop back here, and then as soon as I play those notes, I'm out of my mindset for this kind of E mixolydian scale. And I hop back here to the 12th fret of the B and G string. Right back to the E minor pentatonic, right? Then 14 of the D string. I slide down and out, and when I'm done with that, the last note of the solo is just a and I slide up to about the 15th fret from down here. and I'm not being super precise about it. And that's it. Let me play those last two measures for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, that's it for this video. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. I'll get back to you. And if you haven't already, go to guitarfam.com and create your complimentary account. You'll get access to the resources for this lesson, plus all of our free courses and the first module of all of our premium courses. And every Guitar Fam member gets a personal private one-on-one lesson with me. The first one's complimentary. See you guys. Thanks for watching.